What's up guys, Jimmy coming to you guys with another video. Before we get into the video, as always, make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. And when you guys hit subscribe, please make sure you guys are hitting that notification button. So by the time you guys are watching this video, it's going to be almost Christmas time. So I hope you guys have a happy holidays. So there was a ton of shoes that came out this year in 2020 and a bunch of stuff that happened. You know, this was a crazy year in terms of like everything that happened socially, the pandemic, shoes coming out, Kobe passing away. There was just a bunch of stuff that everyone experienced for the first time ever. This in itself is just me recapping the top 5 shoes of 2020. So there was a bunch of shoes that came out in 2020 from Nike Basketball, Nike SB, Air Jordans, New Balance, and you know, some Adidas, Yeezys of course, but there was a couple of shoes that were crazy heaters and a lot of sleepers as well. I chose all the shoes on this list due to their hype, demand, how limited they were, and basically the impact they had on the sneaker culture. So my top 5 shoe of 2020, even though it actually hasn't came out yet, is the Nike Kobe 6 Scrunches. These are supposed to come out on December 25th, which is Christmas Day. So crazy thing about these is, you know, there was one point, I believe, you know, up until now, up until Kobe passed away, where these shoes were selling for, you know, $300-400 at max. You know, no one really effed with Nike Basketball, at least, you know, especially the Kobe line. Like there was a point where Nike Basketball was at its peak, but then once things kind of changed, like fashion wise, Nike Basketball definitely took a dip. You know, I will say out of all the Nike Basketball shoes, these, the LeBron 8 South Beaches, and a couple other shoes definitely held their value, but most of the shoes did pretty hard. The reason why I chose this shoe at number 5 is for a couple of reasons. One, the hype on them is pretty real. If you guys are looking at StockX right now, the 2010 pair goes for, in a size 8, the lowest ask is $1,600 and the highest bid is about $700. So that's pretty crazy for a shoe that is 10 years old. And funny enough, these came out when I was like a freshman in high school, and that was like when Nike Basketball was just about to take off. Like the South Beach 8s were just about to come out, things like that. So these shoes actually do hold a decent amount of sentimental value to me. This is when Kobe, LeBron, KDs were like the super in thing. You know, people wearing them casually, going out, things like that. So the CD's re-release, I'm not gonna lie to you guys if I say I wasn't fiending for them myself, but I think besides the hype, I think it's just pretty impactful that Nike is dropping these on Christmas Day, you know, in the same year that Kobe passed away. That is what really skyrocketed all these prices in Kobe's, you know, all these resellers, you know, taking advantage of Kobe's death and, you know, making a quick buck off of it. You know, whether that's right or wrong, that's really up to you and for the seller to decide. But yeah, I have these as my top 5 shoe just because, you know, these are in memory of Kobe, have a lot of sentimental value to me, and you know, there's just a lot of hype around them as well. And the shoe I have at number 4 is the Air Jordan 1 Mochas. These were super hyped, super limited. A lot of people loved them, a lot of people hated them. I honestly, in my opinion, believe that most people love them. Many people dubbed them the poor man Travis Scott ones, and I mean, if you see the shoe in person, you know, you guys know exactly why. That brown mocha, the sail coloring, the black, like honestly, in my opinion, almost comparable to the Travis Scott ones in which shoe looks a little bit nicer. These shoes came out on October 31st of this year, 2020. Retail was $170, and if you go in StockX, price range for these is about $350 to $400 depending on the size you're looking at. You know, I have these at number 4 just because, you know, I had them maybe flip-flop between 2 and 4. I felt like 2 was a little bit too high for it. 4 was kind of like that perfect number. I'll say out of all the ones that dropped this year, these probably have to be the most hype. You know, there was like the reverse spread, the 85s that came out on All-Star Weekend, and just a bunch of other colorways, but you know, those kind of fell through the cracks. As hyped as those were, like for me, myself, you know, the quantity, the availability of the dark mocha ones was pretty high. You know, I believe there was about like 130,000 pairs, but when it came down to finding a pair for yourself, if you didn't hit on sneakers, you know, and this was when COVID was kind of picking back up, so all the foot-side stores got their shipments in late, but even then, like everyone was eating. So it was pretty hard to find a pair for yourself. Like I'll say, even for myself, I tried super hard with sneakers. I tried a couple days after all the foot-side stores got their pairs in, but still haven't been able to find a pair. And for myself, I'm just not really about paying resale at least double in price for these Mocha ones, so I'm gonna hold off on them even though I have them so high up on my list. A lot of you might not agree with me on this just because there were so many shoes that came out this year, but this list is really based off of hype, how many people wanted them, and in my opinion, this might be the shoe of the year for a lot of people. And the third shoe I have on my list is the Nike Air Zoom Spirit on Cage 2, specifically the Stussy collab in the Fossil colorway. These came out, I believe, in April or so. So yeah, so they came out on April 3rd of 2020. Retail was $160. The lowest ask on them, so the price range for these is about $300 to $500 also depending on the size you're looking at. The crazy thing about these is when they first came out, I didn't think they would skyrocket. So me and my friend Jimmy were really interested in picking these up, but you know, like we don't really pay resale too often. And you know, these were shoes that were super nice, but we just couldn't pull the trigger. And we remember seeing them on the Facebook marketplace, the Facebook groups, and they were going for about maybe like 220 to 280 max. And then for some reason, all the NBA players, all the influencers started wearing them, and then the prices at minimum were 3 to 4. Just something that literally in a span of a week, the price jumped was crazy. And I think this deserves that 3 spot just because, you know, Nike brought back this design with the spirit on, and yeah, like the other colorways didn't do as well, I'll say, but you know, for Nike to bring this back, a new model that has never really retroed in the past, you know, for them to bring it back and just have so much hype out the gate, I think that's something to say about Nike and this shoe in itself. And in comparison to the other spirit on model, that one honestly has no hype behind it whatsoever. I don't think there's a single pair that has a resale value. You know, not that there's anything bad with that, because I love that spirit on model, but when you're comparing like top shoe release of 2020 that's based off of hype, you know, I think this definitely puts the shoe in that category. And then coming at number 2, we have the Air Jordan 4 Retro Off-White Sale. Price range for these kind of varies as well, but I'll say they probably go for about $1,000 to $1,800 depending on what you're looking at. Clearly this is all dead stock off of StockX. If you bought it locally, it could be a lot cheaper, but these came out in June, or no, they came out in July 25th of 2020. These shoes came out on July 25th of 2020 and retail was $200. Of course, right, with anything Off-White, there's always going to be automatic hype behind it. And I say always, but that's not really the case. There were a bunch of shoes that came out in 2019, like the end of 2019 to maybe early 2020 that came out, what that Off-White did, and those shoes just kind of dropped the ball. No one was really messing with Off-White at the time, and I'll say a lot of people had thought Virgil had fell off. But I'll say once the 5s came out, once the 4s came out, that's when Virgil was really starting to pick things up back for Nike, Air Jordan brand. You know, he was starting to like reclaim like, yo, like I am the designer at Nike, like I have that tier status of hype behind me. And you know, I'll really say like he did it with the 4s. Like ultimately, like if you look at the 4, like there's nothing like super crazy about them, right? Like there's definitely like all these different patterns, all these different material used, which is why I personally love them myself. And you know, just looking at that sale colorway, you can honestly wear these shoes with any color pants, any color shorts. Like they would honestly go with a bunch of outfits, which is why I personally love them so much. But for myself, the amount of people that I see wanting this shoe, you know, in comparison to the Off-White Firebird 5s, the Off-White not the Firebirds, but the metallic 5s, those both dipped in values to some degree. The metallics more so than the Firebird 5s that came out, but these sale ones right here, like I feel like they have been pretty steady, pretty constant, and I really only see these going up and up in price. I'll also say this is a shoe that I don't know if I'll ever be able to own in my collection, but you know, I've been trying to trade a couple of things towards this shoe. You know, like for myself, paying that $1,000 price tag is kind of out the picture. You know, like I said, with the Mochas, if I'm not willing to pay that resale, like with these, $1,000 for a pair of shoes is just a little bit too much on my end, even though I know you can always resell them back. But this pair of shoes, this would probably be the closest shoe I would ever come close to paying resale for. And finally, the number 1 shoe of 2020 is, I don't know if you guys are gonna expect it, but it is the Nike SB Dunk Low Ben & Jerry Chunky Dunky. So, you know, this probably might not be a big surprise to some of you. This might be because, you know, you guys might not even mess with Nike SBs like that. But these came out on May 26th of 2020. Retail was $100 and resale is in the range of $1,200 to $1,400 for a size 8. So of course the number 1 of anyone's list might be a little controversial just because, you know, everyone has different tastes, different opinions. For myself, why I chose these to be the number 1 pick of 2020 is just what these did to the Nike SB, to the sneaker community. In my opinion, this shoe completely changed the game for Nike and shoes, at least for the next 2 years. This might be a little bit far-fetched to say, but I think Nike SB will definitely be in style for at least another year and a half, 2 years. I think it might be a little while before we see another shoe come and just take over like this. It's just crazy, right? Because, you know, I myself, I hate being that person that, oh, I've always been the Nike SBs and stuff, but, you know, my first pair of SBs came when I was in middle school, so, you know, I've seen like that incline or like that peak of Nike SB almost, and then like that decline at like basically the gold box and the blue box here is when I feel like Nike really started to drop off. After they dropped the Janowski Husky line is when things kind of settled out and people were starting to wear Jordans a little bit more. But to see Nike SB come back, because I'll honestly say I myself, I thought Nike SBs were done for. Like, I didn't think Nike SB would ever die as a line of Nike, but I didn't think they would come back this strong with so much hype around them. And I think with this shoe, I need to give an honorable mention to the Travis Scott SB Dunks as well. These two shoes in hand basically brought Nike SB to the next level. Also the Strangelove shoe, those were an amazing shoe that Nike dropped this year. But the Chunky Dunky itself, from the special packaging, you know, just the release, like skate shops only, like it just brought back that like what 2008 2012 vibes. I mean, at least for myself, right? Like I know SBs go back to like 2003, but at that time I was like 9, right? Like I wasn't buying skateboarding shoes, but just to see Nike SB back on top, super hype, super limited. I mean, if you guys go on StockX, like you guys can see all the crazy prices for those blue boxes, the pink boxes, the super old SBs, you know, like all of them are fetching 300 and up at minimum. It also had a ripple effect, in my opinion, to other Dunks as well, right? Not everyone is going to be able to attain these older SBs, so you know, someone just wants these Dunks, so the price of those are going to go up as well. So that again is why, in my opinion, the Chunky Dunky is the #1 shoe of 2020. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree, disagree? What do you guys think about my list? Clearly there's a lot of bias towards Nike, Air Jordan. There's a lot of New Balances that came out this year, a bunch of Yeezys that came out this year. There was no shoe, in my opinion, that stood out that could make this list and just beat out these other shoes. Like, you know, to say, are these the nicest shoes that came out this year? I mean, that's really up to everyone's opinion. But are they the most hype shoes that came out this year? In my opinion, I think so. But, you know, everyone's going to have their own opinion. So let me know down below in the comments, what was your top 5 hype shoes that were released in 2020? And also let me know if you guys actually managed to pick any of them up. For myself, I think out of that list of 5, I mean, unless I hit on the Grinches, I have not hit on any of those 5s. I think Nike just doesn't want me to hit on these super hype shoes. You know, they give me decent luck hitting these other shoes, but these super hype shoes, I just have no luck on. So I hope you guys enjoyed my take on the top 5 shoes that came out this year. You know, here's so many more videos in 2021. I look forward to the more reviews, the more vlogs, thrifting hauls, things like that. So I hope you guys have a happy holidays, happy new year, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.